Hello, fellow internet goers. This is the Snipe. I'm with my lovely wife. And last night, well, actually, this is filmed right now, in April 5th, 2013. Big movie came out. I'm not talking about Jurassic Park 3D. Obviously, that one did come out, though. I'm talking about the Evil Dead remake, aptly titled Evil Dead. Wow. I did not know what to expect about this movie. I didn't think there would have been so much blood. All I gotta say right off the get-go is hooray for rated R films. There's not enough these days. Most of them are just PG-13. I think it's a boatload of crap, and for finally, to see a couple rated R horror films these days, it's nice to see for once. What'd you think?
Have you not watched the Saw films? I mean, come
Yeah.
on, those are all rated R and full of blood.
Yeah, but the thing is that the first one came out in 2003, and the last one that they made was a couple years ago.
Well, thank God they finally killed the series.
And they didn't really do much with it. And I'm talking about not only just a rated R film that's a horror film, a good rated R horror film.
Well, that's all a matter of opinion.
The last good rated R film that I thought was good was Sinister. And before that, one that really popped in my head that I thought was really good was Haunting in Connecticut, and that was PG-13.
Yeah.
I think that...
I don't think it's necessary to go throwing language and blood around all the time, though.
No, but with horror films, you kind of...
Well, there's a difference between horror films and horror/gorefest films. And that's more what Evil Dead went for, I think.
I think it successfully pulled it off, though.
Yes, it did. It had some nice nods to the original film, and kind of made you just go, ah.
It's a little different than the original ones, the original Evil Dead trilogy. Like, none of the characters have any of the names from the original trilogy at all. So it's a fresh new pace. No Ash, no nobody that you remember.
Boomstick.
And
the Necronomicon itself does look quite different.
Yeah. It seemed to, like, with the difference between the original one and this one, the original one really quickly got onto some crazy shit, where this one, it took a little while, but as soon as like that initial thing happened, that's when it started going crazy. So it gave you more of a chance to, really know more about the characters and why they're there. Where in the original one it was just, oh, we're, going on vacation to this cabin. You don't really know what else is going on about it. And that was something that I thought was quite nice.
So they gave a plausible,
realistic
reason for why they didn't believe the main character when she said she saw certain things, and why the whole group was there and did not want to leave.
Yes.
It kept some of the original humor with some of the lines.
A little bit.
And the way that they were played.
They still marked it as as it being a scary movie. There was a little bit of humor, but not enough for it to be considered, oh, this is like your standard funny Evil Dead movie. So it kind of kept in tune with its roots of the original film, which guys, remember, Evil Dead was like the ultimate experience in grueling terror. That's exactly what Stephen King said. Is there anything negative you have to say about it?
Negative?
Anything you didn't like about the movie?
My biggest thing was I was expecting to see a particular scene that I had seen in the trailers, and I was really excited about, and found quite creepy. And it was nowhere in the film to be found.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't really know why they didn't include it, because it was kind of like, it was very nostalgic of the original film, but I think that was just a way for them to get you there, and they just kind of didn't want to worry about it, because they had their own little thing with it, but I don't really want to tell you what it is, because I want you to go watch the film, because it's worth watching. And if anyone who was a fan of the original Evil Dead movie, they really should watch it. I was really skeptical going into this movie because a lot of horror movie remakes just don't really seem to cut the mustard. But, I mean, I really should have realized that if Sam Raimi, Robert Tappert, and Bruce Campbell all have their name on this as producers and all back this movie up, it's got to at least be decent. It can't be that bad. And it wasn't. It was actually pretty good. I can't believe I'm saying this. I liked this movie, and it was worth watching. I wouldn't mind going to the theaters to watch it again, because it was worth it. There was stuff in it that made me cringe. There was, I actually was legitimately creeped out on a lot of stuff, and a lot of horror movies don't seem to do that lately, and this one really took me off guard.
I think part of it was just a really good attention to detail in the atmosphere that it created, with the score and the lighting.
Anybody out there that are into film as an art form, there is a lot of great cinematography and lighting in it. You will see a lot of scenes in this movie that are very much paying tribute to the original one, with the unique camera angles that they used. So much so that some of them are, like the original one, kind of nauseating. But, I think it was meant to do that because, you're brought into this uncomfortable, unsettling world. And all in all, it'll creep the crap out of you. Final thoughts about the movie?
Give it probably about an 8 out of 10. 10 being, most godly movie ever.
It gets a thumbs up for me. So.
I enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind going to go see it again. Groovy.
Now, the biggest question everyone's probably asking about this movie, how does it stack up with the original?
I think it stacks up pretty well against the original, because if you take the original and the reboot, you can definitely see that the original movie is dated. And they did a really, really good job of just kind of taking it and updating it to make it more relevant to present day.
Mm-hmm. Storyline-wise, I would actually say, when you actually look at it as a script, as a story, I actually think that the story for it is actually better. Now, with the practical effects, because I'm a really big practical effects guy, while I thought that the new one had really, really great practical effects, I would still have to go with the original. And the lighting, I think, was better in this one. But for cinematography, I'd probably still prefer the original. It's really close. I probably would lean more to still preferring the original one, but the Evil Dead trilogy is one of my favorite trilogy of movies. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. But I can see people actually preferring to watch this new one, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, because it's one of the few that actually seems to do justice to the original piece, and that's something you don't see very often. You see a lot of these remakes, mostly done by a certain someone, Michael Bay, and they don't really. It seems like they're just kind of whoring them off like a bunch of prostitutes. Well, this one actually seems to be a little bit more classy. I mean, aside from the blood.
Not really.
I
wouldn't say classy, but I would say that the director and the people who worked with the writing and stuff like that, they cared about they cared about the original trilogy, and you could tell that they were fans of the original trilogy. That they probably, like us, kind of grew up with those films and really just kind of idolized them and cared to make sure that nothing came off in such a way that the fans would be totally disappointed or outraged.
And I think that's a good thing too, because it seems, I think that, the best way to go at a remake project is someone who has a great deal of love and respect for the original work and has a passion to make a good product to, kind of almost pay tribute to the original work you're pretty much taking from. And like I said, this is one of the first ones I've seen to actually do that in a long time. I can't even think off the top of my head of a remake that, in my opinion, has actually done really well, compared to the original one. I mean, I know there's some out there. I know a lot of people prefer is it John Carpenter's The Thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a remake, and a lot of people actually like that one, I think, even more than the original.
Yes.
I mean, they do exist. Good remakes do exist. They're just really hard to come by because it's a really bold attempt to remake a classic. And this film is a classic. It's gory, it's disturbing, and it actually was controversial when it was made, but Evil Dead is still a classic, and the people that made this remake knew that and knew how to handle it, and it was good. Go see it. I think that's good for us. I'll be in theater for a while, but you're a big fan of the original trilogy, because you'll see something that, at least in my opinion, was awesome.
By the way, this movie is by no means intended for people who are not fans of gore fests, horror films, or for the faint of heart.
Yeah, it's. I never thought I'd see a movie that was arguably more bloody than Brain Dead, also known as Dead Alive.
Totally was.
It's debatable, but I mean,
totally
it's a lot of blood. Blood. It's a lot. So, see you next time, guys.